If you're expecting a bunch of guru fluff and get-rich-quick garbage, you've come to the wrong place. This show is the no bullshit real deal.
No bullshit real deal.
I'm Larry Harbolt, and they call me the real deal. Welcome to my show. This show is aimed at providing you with quality information so you can make more profit in the fastest way possible without making costly mistakes from the deals you do.
Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. You know, as I talk to many of my students that have adopted my ideas about buying long-term income properties with seller financing, I'm finding out many of them are having trouble convincing the sellers to be willing to give the seller financing terms that they need. So today I thought I'd go over some of the same things I've talked about on previous podcasts, but I wanted to condense that information to help you, the investor, be able to better convince the sellers when most sellers tell the investor that they're not interested in giving seller financing terms, they'll only accept all cash. This is typical. Now, one of the things I've learned over the years sitting at kitchen tables is how to convince the sellers that what I'm offering them is better for them than if they got all cash. Now, like I said many times on previous podcasts, in most cases, the reasons the sellers are just not willing to accept seller financing terms is they just don't know if they can trust you to make the payment every month and not fall behind. That's a very important thing. Many of them believe getting all their money at closing is what they're supposed to do because that's what they talk about. Everyone talks about. That's what they do on television. It's all about getting cash. And many sellers feel more secure with the money in the bank than if they were to receive monthly payments from you. Now, that's just to name a few. So what they don't realize is if they don't live in the property, they're going to have to pay all of the capital gains taxes in the year of the sale. Now, the amount that they're going to have to pay in capital gains taxes is the difference between what they paid for the property and what they sold the property for. Also, if they do not live in the property, they will have to recapture all of the depreciation that they've written off over the past years. Now, that's up to the past 27 and a half years. It's important for you to remind them that if they sell the property to you, they will no longer have to deal with tenants and toilets. They will never have to evict a tenant again. They will never have to spend money fixing up the property after a tenant's moved out. And they will not have to pay for any of the maintenance at the property ever again. One of the things I've learned sitting at kitchen tables for over 40 years, once I show the seller what they are actually paying out every month or every year, that's a good way to convince them how you can affect their monthly income. So let's talk about that for a minute. Even if the property is paid for, they still have annual property taxes to pay. They have annual property insurance to pay. They still have and must maintain the property. They've got to fix the heating system, the air conditioning system when it breaks, and they must also pay for any other minor maintenance, such as fixing faucets, unstopping sewer lines, fixing the roof, replacing a hot water heater, fixing broken windows, as well as anything else that may break at the property. Now, everything I just mentioned has a cost that the owner must pay for. One of the most important things I show the seller on what I call is a T-bar. I've talked about this before. And on the T-bar, I show them their monthly cash flow, how it's going to swing in their favor if they sell me the property. But the best way, in my opinion, to make long-term income properties work is if the seller will accept payments from me every month for as many years as I can convince them to take. So if you don't know what a T-bar is, let me explain. If you'll take a sheet of paper and about 1 inch from the top, draw a line straight across the top of the page. Then draw a line from the top center of the page straight down to the bottom center of the page. Now at the top on the left-hand side, above the line, write the words, "Your present position." On the right top side, above the line, write, "Your potential position." So once I've created a T-bar, I then write all of the costs of that property that the seller has to pay every month. On the right side, I write how much the seller will have to pay for those same items if they sell the property to me. On the right side of the page, Also, all of the items will be zero because they no longer have to pay them. I will be paying them. Now, what the T-bar does is it shows the seller the swing in their monthly cash flow if they accept the terms that I'm offering them. And since I started using that T-bar, it's made a tremendous difference in convincing the seller that what I'm offering is much better for them than if they got all cash and then put the money in the bank and they're drawing 0.5% to 1.5% interest every month. That just doesn't work. I can do much, much better for them. I also constantly talk about the formulas that I created that are contained in my Never Step Into a Bank Again course material, that I have the seller fill in the numbers for each item that's the actual cost for them and for every property they own. I have them fill in the numbers simply because, you see, when I do the numbers, they are always suspect. They don't know exactly what I'm doing. But when the seller puts in the numbers on the sheet for that property, they know their fact. So they use a calculator. That way they know exactly what that property is costing them. Now, since I started letting the seller fill out the formulas, it's totally eliminated the seller saying to me, you're just trying to lowball me with that offer, and you're just trying to rip me off. This is no longer a problem because of the T-bar and the formula. It has made a tremendous difference in how the seller reacts to me. Now, I know for a fact that most inexperienced investors, they fear talking directly with the sellers because they're afraid they're going to say something wrong and the seller is going to reject what they say. But like I said many times before, you must ask the important questions or you're never going to know exactly how to structure the deal. Now, again, on recent podcasts, I talked about knowing what your plans are for that particular property you're trying to buy. In the event that you're successful buying it, do you plan to flip or assign the purchase agreement to another investor? Or do you plan to fix the property and sell it at a retail price? Or do you plan to keep the property as a long-term rental property? So before ever making an offer on any property, you've got to know the answer to these questions simply because each one figures differently when you're calculating the numbers on what you should pay for that particular property. And getting seller financing terms only works best buying long-term rental properties. See, when you flip a purchase agreement or you sell a property after you fixed it and sell it at a retail price, seller financing terms in most cases, it doesn't make sense simply because the time that you're going to own those properties will only be a few months. But if you plan to buy a property that you plan on keeping it long-term as a rental property, is when seller financing terms, in my opinion, is by far the best way to buy any property. So if you plan to flip a purchase agreement or fix and sell the property at a retail price, in most cases, paying cash or getting a short-term loan would be the most logical thing to do. So if you're hesitant to ask any seller who has a house you would like to own as a long-term rental property, you see, and then you plan to resell that property, this is a little different twist on it. If you plan to buy the rental property with seller financing terms, you can turn around and sell that property to another investor with seller financing terms. No violation of the Dodd-Frank Act. So if you plan to do that, you can set up a deal where if you can buy it below market and you can turn around and sell it to someone else with monthly payments, you can make a nice spread every month. So the one thing I've got to say is do not, and I'm going to repeat this again, don't ask any seller that's got a property that you would like to keep as a long-term rental property for seller financing terms unless you plan to keep it long-term. You got to remember one thing. Some sellers will, some sellers won't. It's a numbers game. So if every investor who's trying to buy a long-term income property, if you'll use the T-bar that I provided in my red, white, and blue course materials and use the formulas that I created in the same course and follow the negotiating scripts I provide at my 4-day Never Step Into a Bank Again training, if you'll use these items, you will have almost as good negotiating skills as I've got. Simply because these is what I learned over 40 years. You have them now. So if you'll use them, you're going to find a way to convince the seller with these ideas. It's always going to be much better for you, the investor, because you don't have to be intimidated. There's no reason for it. Once you have these items, these are the tools you need if you want to be a successful negotiator. Definitely think about coming to one of my 4-day Never Step into a Bank Again trainings, where I share with you many secrets only seasoned investors would ever know that will shorten your learning curve by many, many years. Like I said 1,000,000 times, the key to your success is experience, because experience is always going to be the best teacher that you can ever get. But for those of you who don't have many years of experience, why not let me help you and use my years of experience to help you structure your deals? You know, I'm offering you a unique chance to learn techniques and strategies others don't teach. The students that follow what I teach are doing extremely well simply because they're not doing what every other investor is doing. See, I'm offering you a unique chance to learn the secrets of the successful investors, and I'm also willing to help those of you who are suffering from lack of money. I'm currently helping many other investors with my payment plan to help you get the information you need in an affordable way so you can do this business. If you need help with the financing, you can contact me at larryharbold@gmail.com, and I'm willing to make it affordable for you. I'm also offering to give you my 31-page lesson called Unwrapping the Mystery of Subject To. It's free. Just email me at larryharbold@gmail.com and request a copy. So you have to understand, I'm trying to make it so you can get started in this business or you can prosper in this business. So, my friends, that's going to about wrap up this episode for my podcast for this week. You know, I hope you found some value from today's topic, and I invite you to head over to larryharbold.com and register to keep up to date with my tips and ideas to help you become a better and more informed real estate investor. Now, if you're not already registered, head over to larryharbold.com/register to get access to my free phone script on how to negotiate with sellers over the phone. And please be sure to tell a friend, and also leave me a message, a review on the podcast player that you're using to listen to me right now. You see, your reviews help me to know that the information that I'm providing to you is valuable and it's helping you. Now, be sure to check out my courses, articles, and available trainings on my website, and watch for my Facebook Live posts I do every few days. And also, be sure to check out my affordable coaching program at makingbiggerprofits.com. That's makingbiggerprofits.com. It's an affordable way for those of you who want to get in-depth information that is in the form of a coaching program. So, I hope you all have a great week. So until next time, this is Larry Harbold.
Thanks for listening to the Real Deal Podcast with Larry Harbold. To learn more about investing in real estate, head on over to larryharbold.com and register for his educational tips and articles delivered by email.